What if the reason your child struggles with big emotions has less to do with them and more to do with what's happening inside of you? We become parents, and suddenly emotions are everywhere in your children, in our homes, in our own bodies, and they don't wait for a convenient time. They show up in the middle of a busy morning, in the middle of a disagreement, in the middle of a moment where you're already stretched thin, and it can start to feel like emotions are the problem. Why do we even have emotions? Why is it that we feel things even when we don't want to? And why does it sometimes feels like emotions are running the show instead of us? Many of us have developed incredible capacity to function, to adapt, to move forward. And along the way, emotions became something to move through quickly or interpret from the mind. If we're honest, a lot of us didn't grow up learning how emotions actually work. We learn how to push them down, how to move past them, how to stay in control. Welcome back to Twos to Teen, Parenting Authentically Through the Seasons with Betty and Ellie. In this new series, Parenting Through Big Emotions from Overwhelm to Connection, we're diving into emotions. Not just your child's emotions, but your relationship with emotions as a parent. Emotions are already present in your life. They are already moving through your body. They are already shaping how you experience yourself and the world. And they don't arise randomly. They rise to get your attention. They move through the body in response to values, needs, and life experiences. They are part of your body's communication system, and they point towards something that matters. But when we haven't learned how to understand them or feel safe experiencing them, they can feel overwhelming, unpredictable, and even threatening. Together, we'll begin making sense of emotions and noticing how emotional intelligence naturally becomes a path to conscious parenting. We slow down enough to listen, to sense, to understand because your child is experiencing emotions in that same way, but without the language, the tools, or the capacity to make sense of it. And they are not just learning about emotions from what you say, they're learning from how you experience yours. So, in today's episode, emotional regulation starts with you. Your capacity to feel is what begins to shape your child's ability to regulate. I'm Betty Arteaga Muriel, certified parent coach and founder of Your Parenting Story. I work with driven, high achieving parents who are thriving in their outer world but feel overwhelmed and disconnected at home. I guide them from surviving family to leading their families with strength, compassion, and connection. And I'm so glad to be having this conversation alongside Ellie, who shares this passion for supporting parents in a deeper, more connected way. Ellie, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we dive in?
Hi, I'm Ellie Knott, founder of Ellie Chase Coaching, and I'm a preschool teacher turned parent coach. I work with parents of young children who are feeling really overwhelmed with all of the noise about what they feel like they should be doing, find their most authentic parenting path so they can raise their kids with more confidence, connection, and joy.
Excellent. And Ellie, I think the big question today is what are emotions? Because I hear the word emotions, feelings. Is there a difference between emotions and feelings?
I don't know that there's a difference between the two, but I think there is a lot of misconception about what our feelings are and also what they're not. So, there's two different parts that come with our emotions, right? One of those is the label, right? Is the saying like, I feel happy, I feel mad, I feel frustrated. And the other part is actually feeling the feeling, right? Is actually how it feels in our bodies and how we experience it. And that's the part of the emotions that we tend to kind of put on the back burner or, push to the side. And we like to kind of stay in the heady part of it and just say like, oh, I'm upset about this, and try to get out of that body feeling. And then there's
Yeah.
also fake feelings, as I like to call them, where maybe we say, I feel disrespected or I feel judged, right? And these things aren't actual feelings in the body. It's more of a reflection of what we think someone else did to us rather than how we're feeling. So there's definitely some distinction there of, maybe you feel really upset, you feel really hurt because you feel like someone disrespected you. But disrespected isn't an actual feeling.
Yeah, I definitely get that. The way that I've been learning to see feelings at is or emotions as our emotions are my body's way of communicating. They are my alarm system. So when an emotion rises, it's trying to tell me something. There is information behind it. The thing with the emotions, right, is that our body is the one that feels them. It's a whole body experience. And the brain comes after trying to make sense of what is this that we're feeling? Why are we feeling this? But I think we've talked a little bit about this before. Our nervous system is always activated, is always alert and trying to see what's going on around us. Is this safe? Is this okay? Is this something that I've experienced before? And what happened when I experienced it before? And all of this is happening in the background. Let me tell you something, your brain doesn't even know yet what's going on. It's happening in the body. So it accepts, right? It's like a radar. It's going around checking what's going on. And then it's going to alert you, hey, this is what I need, or this might not fit, this doesn't feel right with our values or our experiences. So then it starts sending these signals to the body. But what's been happening is, and this is where the feelings come in, is the part of the brain, is the way that we interpret them. And like you
Mm.
mentioned, Ellie, there's a difference between interpreting our feelings and actually getting the whole experience of feeling it in the body. So when it gets to the brain tries to make sense of it. And it's gonna try to make sense of it in what's around, and is trying to make sense of it in terms of how are we positioned in this moment. Is this safe? Am I talking to somebody? Is this person causing this? Where a little bit of the labels, right, are coming. Is this person causing me to feel this way? Is that's what making this emotion arise? But in reality, the thing is, and that's why we're having this conversation today, that the issue with the emotions, the feelings, and the interpretations all together is that nobody taught us how to listen to the message that they're sending. How do we start to listen to that message?
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing you say is our emotions are actually a way that our inner voice communicates to us.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's something we haven't been listened to or taught to listen to, it can be really hard to hear it. So, by starting to recognize when our emotions come up, and starting to give them space, we can start to get more connected with that voice again. And you talked about emotions as your alarm system, and I would resonate with that for more emotions that we would think of as like negative emotions, right? The ones that aren't so pleasant to experience, of sadness or anger or grief. Um, However, I think it's also true that our more positive emotions are also communications from our higher self, our inner voice, right? When we feel joy, that's a green light of like, do this more, right? Or when you work out and you feel really good and you feel proud of yourself and you feel happy,
Mm-hmm.
you want more of that, right? And so it's also listening to those signs, and that could be a really fun and joyful way, a playful way to start learning to listen to your emotions again without it feeling like overwhelming and scary, of having to deal with the emotions that feel not so much fun. And again, we were never taught how to deal with them or how to listen to them. So I think that can be a really great starting place for people who are feeling disconnected from their inner voice, or for people who feel, as soon as those emotions come up, we immediately start trying to go into the head and explaining in a way, and well, I feel this way because this, and this just needs to happen and then I'll be fine. And we don't let that emotion go through our body.
Mm-hmm.
And when we don't let those emotions go through our body, we're not actually experiencing them. And so they don't have a chance to be felt and then move on, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
emotions actually end up getting stuck in our body when we don't feel them. And so instead of feeling it and hearing that message and then being able to take action, right, and listen to that communication, it ends up getting stuck. And then we spend a lot of time and energy trying to suppress it and push it down because it won't go away. And it's
Mm-hmm.
unpleasant, right? We don't like it and we don't know what to do with it because we've never learned. So actually, you're not feeling anxious all the time. You're not feeling angry all the time. You're actually avoiding feeling those things. And the longer that you avoid feeling it, the stronger it gets, the more it's going to try to come up and eventually come out in a time that you really don't want it to. And in a way that is not healthy and is not helpful for you to actually, listen to that communication, right? It's going to come out sideways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely hear you, Ellie, and I love that you mentioned about the point to start, maybe with the feelings that you feel a little more comfortable with. We've talked about this before. We're always going as fast as the slowest part of you feels safe, and that goes with emotions too. A very important thing to notate about emotions is that they're neutral, right? We are, all emotions are welcome and they're neutral, but there's certain emotions that we welcome more than the others. And for some people, and Ellie mentioned happiness, for some people happiness might not be the emotion that you might welcome first. Some people don't know how to experience joy. As soon as it comes up, it's like, oh, this is not safe. The body doesn't feel safe to feel that joy, and it brings back. So it's important to notate which ones, which emotions are you feeling more comfortable or welcoming in. And then, like Ellie mentioned, bringing it to the body to observe, how does this feel, where does it start, what is the first sensation that I can identify in my body about it. And this, I'm going to say something that blew my mind, is that an emotion only takes 90 seconds to go through the body. 90 seconds for the sensation, for that alarm to, right, to go off and alert what it is. But what Ellie mentioned is so critical here. If we don't let it pass, if we are not able to hold it and to feel it for those 90 seconds, they get stuck. Like Ellie mentioned, they're gonna get stuck, they get suppressed. And that anxiety that we were talking about, that she's like, no, you're not feeling anxious all the time, right? You're suppressing it. The problem with this is that when you go to the real life, when you go into your parenting phase, all of those emotions that you've been suppressing and then they're gonna come out, our brain doesn't even know why we're having them anymore, because the alarm is an old alarm, and most of us have a lot of alarms that we have not turned off yet, that they're still accumulated there. And then when they come up, we feel so horrible, we don't even know why we overreacted in the moment, because the emotion didn't just come from the experience that we were having in that moment. That emotion came with all of that it had for all of the moments that we pushed them down.
And I think that speaks to why some emotions feel really dangerous for us,
Mhm.
right? Because we've only experienced them in this way where they're bottled up, right? They're stacked on top of each other. It's like a pressure cooker. And then all of a sudden it comes out and spews everywhere. And it does feel dangerous because all of a sudden you're yelling or you're like breaking out in so many tears, right? Or you're slamming the door and it's coming out in a very aggressive way, right? And so we make that association that it is not safe to feel angry. I do things
Mhm.
that make me feel bad when I get angry. I do things that are embarrassing or things that hurt the people around me when I'm angry. And so our brain tells us this story, being angry is bad. So let's keep avoiding it. Let's keep pushing it down. And the funny thing about this is when we've completely flipped the script, we realize that when we can feel our anger, when it comes, right, when those alarm signals go off, it actually becomes way safer to feel because we can feel it in the body. We can take the 90 seconds and let the emotion come up, let the sensation go through the body, and then we
Mhm.
can actually hear what it's trying to tell us. Oh, you're
Mhm.
angry because you just spent an hour cooking dinner. You helped the kids unpack from school and do their homework and all the things. And now, as soon as dinner's over, everybody disappears and you're left with this mess on the table and no one is helping you clean up.
Mhm.
And you're angry about that. And you felt the emotion. And now, instead of screaming or slamming or shutting down, you can actually go to your partner and say, "Hey, I've been working really hard tonight. Could you help me come clean up dinner?" Right? Could you give me a hand with this? Or to your kids, hey, you guys, it's time for you to load your plates into the dishwasher. Right? And then we can actually communicate our need and get that need met without the yelling, right? Without the aggressiveness, without all of those behaviors that then make us feel like upset and guilty and weird afterwards.
Mhm.
And the more we do this, the more safety we create around those emotions, and it becomes easier and easier. It starts to snowball. And so the hardest part really is just starting, like we talked about with those little baby steps and finding where are those entry points for you, where you do feel safe, starting to feel and feel it in little bits, right? I think of it as like turning on the tap, right? Letting a little bit of water out. And then when it feels like too much, turn it back off. You don't need to feel it all right now, right? This is a process that's going to happen over a span of time. It's not all going to happen in one day and then be fixed because how many decades has it been that you've been practicing pushing it down, don't feel it, don't let it out? It's not going to take a day to fix. It's also not going to take decades to fix. So don't worry.
Yes, like you said the word snowball, and I like it, especially for this, because it does start small. It starts with those little moments, and it starts then growing and growing and growing and growing, and all of a sudden then you're able to hold more capacity. And like a a snowball, it starts slow, but when it gets tracked, it goes pretty fast. You're gonna feel, and then all of a sudden you're looking back and you're like, oh, all of this progress was made, and you don't notice that it just started with that one shift, one
Mm-hmm.
little shift going over and over. I love how Ellie mentioned the fact about the communication. How do we communicate these feelings around us? Because that brings me to the modeling part. How are we modeling to our kids how to feel this emotion? And if you are in the same boat as me, where you've never explored your emotions before, this is a whole new thing. The only relationship that you have with your emotions is in on the other side of exploding, then it becomes a very vulnerable way of being, and but it also becomes a very honest experience for you to share with your kids, for you to show them that you can be authentically you, and you are able to manage or hold space for these emotions without losing your leadership. Because sometimes we think that if our kids see us feeling all of these emotions, they are going to doubt our leadership. Or maybe we're dumping too much on them, and we don't have to even go that deep. We don't have to dump on them all of the information or all of the things that are happening in our grown up world. We're just giving them a vocabulary and space for the experience. So bringing back that moment where Ellie mentioned everybody disappeared after dinner. I know that one. And all of the dishes are piling up there, and your anger is there. we can start communicating to our kids. Yes, I'm feeling anger arising. I'm feeling uncomfortable right now. I'm gonna have to breathe, right? To the process, I'm gonna have to breathe because I'm feeling anger coming, because I see all of this dishes piling up and I don't see anybody around here to help. And when that happens, I feel anger, I feel frustrated, I feel tired, because I have a need for collaboration, I have a need for rest, right? And we start communicating those things little by little, and then our kids hear the message. And the message is, when I'm feeling something, I'm able to name it and I'm able to say what's going on through the experience. Emotions don't always look outward, don't always look like big expressions. Emotions can also be talked about, right? We don't necessarily have to explode into them or let them take over. We can say it. I'm feeling happy right now. I'm feeling sadness coming. I feel my chest, like, getting smaller, and I feel myself feeling sad. And we're walking them through, let's go to the body and let's say what's going on. We're giving them that vocabulary. We're giving them permission to feel all of these emotions without not necessarily telling them the whole story. I'm stressed. I'm stressed. My mom has been working today, and it was a tough day, and I'm feeling stressed out. I feel I'm feel myself tense, guys. My capacity today might be a little, short. I'm going to ask you guys to please help mom as much as you can today, because I already feel it. I'm stressed. And then they hear also the message of, then we feel it, we accept it, and we support ourselves through it.
Yeah, and the message I was hearing all through what you just said is that we're modeling to our children that these emotions can be felt in safety, and
Mhm.
they can be felt in relationship,
Mhm.
right? When we feel these emotions, they're safe to feel, they're safe to express. We can express them in healthy ways, and we can ask for help. We can ask for our needs to be met, right? We're not demanding, we're not putting our emotions on our kids, but we're asking for help when we need it, and that gives our children permission to do the same thing, not just now, but 20 years down the road, right?
Mhm.
And that takes us to what our next topic is going to be in the next episode, which is what happens when we give our children permission to feel. So it starts with you, but then it moves on to them. I'm really excited for that next episode. But before we get to that, comment below. Let us know, what is the hardest emotion for you to feel? I'm really curious, right? Is it one that we traditionally think of as positive, or is it one that we, typically label as negative? Which emotion is hardest to feel? Betty, will you tell us where people can find you if maybe they want to work with you? They are, feel it, they're resonating with this episode, and they want a little bit of guidance in starting to be able to feel their emotions.
Yes, if today's conversation resonated with you and you're feeling that pull to grow in the way you show up in your parenting, I'll love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at yourparenting_story, where I share tools, I share reflections and resources for driven parents who want their parenting to reflect both fierce leadership and compassion. And you can also visit yourparentingstory.com for resources, more information about my work, and to schedule a free curiosity call where we can explore what's coming up for you in your parenting and what support might look like for you. And if you'd rather reach out to me directly, you can always email me at coachbetty@yourparentingstory.com. I'd love to hear from you.
And if you would like to work with me, you can go to my website, elliechasecoaching.com. You can schedule a free curiosity call anytime where we can chat and get to know each other, explore how we can work together. You can also email me, elliechasecoaching@gmail.com. On my website, you can join my newsletter where you'll get these, podcast episodes, just different like tips, little tiny parenting tidbits right in your inbox. And you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at Ellie Chase Coaching. But we will see you on the next episode to see what happens when we give our children permission to feel. Thank you so much for joining us today. And remember that wherever you are, from twos to teens, you've got this.